Hey everybody, I'm John Perchik. Welcome back to another episode of our Scale Up Stories. This will be the final episode of Season 1. In this series, we step out of the showrooms and into the boardrooms, speaking with CEOs, founders, and business leaders who shape the design, furniture, and lifestyle industries. Today, I sit down with Scott Harper, CEO of the Harper Group, one of the most respected and fastest growing sales rep agencies in the gift industry. It all started with Scott's mother and a small gift section inside the family's marine supply store in Connecticut. Scott at the time was about as far from the gift industry as you could get, a mechanical engineering graduate, fresh off of his MBA at NYU, climbing the corporate ladder at a company that built equipment for oil refiners. He'd been helping his mom build the business on the side, and he could see it growing. Then an opportunity presented itself, their very first showroom in New York. Sitting in an airport on the way home from pitching one of their biggest customers, the conversation turned serious. He went all in with his mom. 25 years, 200 plus people, multiple markets, and many hard-won lessons later. The Harper Group is a case study in what happens when an engineer's mind meets an entrepreneur's spirit. I hope you enjoy this scale-up story. I'm here with my really good friend, Scott Harper, the Harper Group, CEO of the Harper Group, one of the top rep agencies and really important relationship to our company. But besides that, we've become really good friends over a couple of years now. So I'm really excited to spend some time with you today. You know, I know you're up in Greenwich. The business is really successful through some M&A and otherwise. Maybe just introduce the company, the Harper Group, to folks. Like, what is that business? Tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll start to go backwards in time.
Yeah, sure. So first off, thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
You're a bud, man. I'm psyched just to hang out with a buddy.
Really
like, we don't get this time.
Yeah, for sure. So the company's actually just celebrated its 25th anniversary.
That's right.
Last
Congratulations.
year. Yeah.
Wow.
I started it in 2000 with my mother. I was in a completely different industry myself out of college and undergrad. And
we're going to get to that too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And we had a marine supply store in Connecticut that she created a little gift section in. We sold that store as a family store. We sold it. And she started repping a couple of lines, gained some success, and said, I need some help. And I was pretty entrepreneurial myself and said, hey, why don't we start a company? Thinking nothing of it. And I was on my career path in my undergrad's mechanical engineering. I was on my career path there. And it just kind of started to grow and ebb and flow over the years. And then I realized that the industry is a really unique industry, and it's got a great group of people. It's got a great community, and it's a very entrepreneurial industry. And so I was really attracted to that. I saw a unique opportunity from my standpoint, my skill set, to come in and kind of do something with the company as it continued to grow. And, you know, we started in a small section. We're a sales agency, right? So we work in 4 primary categories. We work in gift. We work in a little bit of giftable home, personal care, home fragrance, personal accessories, and some paper and publishing.
Right.
We started very small, and we kind of grew it organically over the years. Our first showroom was in New York City. And just over the years, we've looked at kind of strategic opportunities to grow the business. And, you know, our goal is to provide just an incredible value to our customers, meaning the brands that we partner with, and really our retailers, right? We want to be that, you know, excellent service and provide extreme value through the relationships that we're building.
I mean, the growth you've had obviously speaks to the fact you're probably hitting those objectives and goals. As a newbie to this industry the last couple of years, you're definitely one of the top dogs.
Thanks, man.
And not only as a company, but as a person. I mean, I know your mechanical engineering background. I remember learning that a while back and being like, okay, that makes total sense to me, because you're a uniquely intelligent person who approaches things in a way that I think an engineer would. And so I value that in our relationship. Going back, I want to double, triple click on a few things. So the marine supply, I didn't know that until right now. I know we talked a little bit about boating, but I had no idea your family part of the family business
it was like boat parts. We sold like cleats,
it was like West Marine, but more of a family-owned version of that?
That's exactly right.
And was it up in Connecticut or where?
It was up in Westbrook, Connecticut.
Westbrook.
Yeah.
And was that like an old legacy family business? Was it
it was a business that the family bought as kind of a retirement idea.
I see.
And that just didn't work out the way that everybody thought it was going to. And so we sold the business and kind of all went on with our other ventures. But, you know, the concept that my mom had was that she wanted to create this gift section in the store for people that were coming in that didn't necessarily want to buy life jackets or cleats or stuff like that. She started with a couple brands.
Were they related directly or indirectly to marine or boating or lifestyle, or completely different in the beginning?
Related directly from the standpoint that they were like green and red patterns. Yeah. That was about it, right?
Wow.
And so it just kind of took off from there.
It did.
Yeah. And then I always like to say she's one of the best salespeople I've ever met. And so was able to really do a great job at generating that gift section. And then when we sold the store, she didn't really have much to do. My parents were going through a divorce at the time as well. And she decided to become a rep. She saw it as a good financial opportunity. And so she hit the road. And, I grew up going to gift shows at Javits and things like that, watching it happen. I was in high school at the time. And it's just a really interesting story. And I think, to your point, this industry is very unique in that way, right? I think I have yet to come across somebody in this industry that graduated college or graduated school and said, hey, I'm going to go into the gift industry, right?
Right.
Everybody kind of finds their way in here through different life experiences or career experiences.
Right.
And it's a really cool industry to become part of because of the community, because of the entrepreneurial spirit. And that's what kind of drew us all into it.
Right. Super interesting. So going back to your mom, just one or two more things before the gift extension of the marine supply business. Had she been in any parts of her life, in any actual jobs in sales? Had she been a salesperson doing salesperson things? Because it sounds, at least that moment, you said whether at heart she was a salesperson, that's what drove the gift. And she was also an entrepreneur. She started this thing from scratch, grew it because of some sales capabilities, then became a great rep and so on. So did she have earlier history in sales?
She was a flight attendant. And so
your parents have been in aviation or airline business, right?
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, they were both in the airlines business as I grew up. So that was kind of part of it. And then she started her own practice with speech pathology. So she would always she'd always been entrepreneurial and kind of sales-like from that standpoint, just as an entrepreneur.
So what's interesting, I was a psych major. So was my wife, actually, undergrad. And I've always felt like while it didn't directly give me a skill, I do feel like I approach my relationships with people, whether it's a sales persuasive kind of relationship or just friendships like ours. There's something about what I took away there has helped me. And I imagine between, flight attendant, you have to have a good personality and get to engage with people by definition, hospitality, that whole thing. And I guess combined with a mindset, whether because of education or just who she is, understands people and therefore can be an effective salesperson. Is that how you think about your mom?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's also conducive to the industry, right? You have these excellent salespeople, you have these excellent creatives that are able to do something entrepreneurial and start something that can really have an impact on the industry or consumers or retailers. And I think then you look at somebody like me who's coming from more of a structured corporate background, technology background. And to me, it's nice to be able to come in and say, all right, how can we take this creative business or how can we take this sales-oriented small business and what do we need to do to structure and layer it and scale it? And that's really what got me from that was the hook for me, right?
So you're sort of the scientist within the arts, right? I mean, there's this creative that tends to be like art. It tends to be qualitative, and you bring sort of a scientist mentality or more of an engineering mentality to it, which is interesting. So let's shift. So that's interesting. So your mom was clearly a heavy influence, her entrepreneurial spirit, her sales orientation, let's just say, and you were tagging along. The years you were tagging along, going to Javits and otherwise you mentioned with your mom, was that pre-college? Was it more how old? What age range are we talking about in your life?
So it was about. We sold the store when I was in high school, or right when I was graduating high school. So it was high school into college.
Got it.
And then once I graduated engineering, then I worked for a company that built equipment for oil refineries.
Right. I saw that.
So I did that for a number of years, and then transitioned up to New York when I was getting my MBA. And at that point,
NYU, right?
At NYU,
great school.
And then at that point, we had the opportunity. I was still working part-time with my mom, and I was really enjoying my career. I was having success. I was traveling all over the world, at a young age. It was great. They were flying me everywhere. And then, the opportunity came up for our first showroom in New York. And, we were, I'll never forget it. We were sitting in a airport flying back from pitching one of our biggest customers, hey, let's do the showroom. And we decided, holy shit, we're going to have to do this. And so I'm going to have to come full-time and run it.
Wow.
And that was kind of the decision point for us to kind of move forward.
Let me hit right there for a second. About where are you in your life? How many years out of college? I know there was grad school, but just to index, about how old were you? Or
I was probably mid-20s.
Wow. Oh, so you were still, I guess you were pretty much just out of your MBA.
Yeah.
And maybe a year or two into life.
20s.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So So you had gone and seen the world a little bit. You had gone and gotten some other skills and whatever. I do want to come back to that. And then your mom is talking with you, taking this business forward, and you realize, if we're going to do this, like, I need to jump in as. So you now become like a 25-year-old CEO of this startup thing, but with a lot behind you with your mom and what have you.
Yeah, that's right. And I think
wow, that's pretty bold, man.
Yeah, it was interesting, right? And I think it was a great challenge. I love big challenges, and I think we obviously started off small, and the MBA is great, but to get in and have to run a business that way, you just don't get that type of experience anywhere else.
So true, right? I mean, and without diminishing education. Education is amazing and critical and important and all that for the right people, but it's just not the same as the hard knocks, school of like business.
That's right.
Where you're getting out there and waking up and dealing with customer issues and leasing copy issues and the small and the big and everything in between. So I want to go back to this this moment of this, because that's a pivot in your life, and I don't want to even go back to college and the grad school thing for a second, but in that moment when you're talking to your mom, and sounds like you had a fulfilling at the time career, like you were traveling, seeing, doing, you were a young guy going around seeing the world.
I was on track to kind of, I was heading up global sales. I was on track to kind of continue
as a young mid-20s guy.
Ranks. Yeah.
So, so speak to that. Like, again, I think for the audience, like here's a guy and other people maybe in this position who have a career. It's an established path. Engineering, MBA, following this corporate gig, head of global sales. And then it's like, I'm going to go try this entrepreneurial thing with my mom. What gave you I'll rattle off a bunch of things that none of them may be right, but either the confidence, the courage, the insanity. What gave you that compulsion to leave this track? Albeit you were young. We should all be willing to take some risk. But like, what was it about that moment? What were the couple decision points that gave you that sort of like, this is right for me? Because clearly, these 24, 25 years later, it was the right choice, right? History has shown that. But you didn't know that then.
No.
So put those two things, those bookends together, beginning and end.
Yeah, I think one of the decision points is you hit the nail on the head, right? When I was 25, I didn't know better. And I think that
ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, exactly. Ignorance is bliss. And I think, I also did it in a way that I kind of hedged my bets as well. So I kind of shifted my focus from the engineering business being the full-time job and Harper Group being the part-time job. I kind of flip-flopped that and consulted for the engineering business for other.
Okay. So you kept that. So you had a little insurance policy, although, so again, takeaway for folks, like if you're taking risks, try to figure out strategies for mitigating that risk.
There's a way to mitigate it.
If there is.
Right. And if you also need to put the effort in too. I think that was the big thing, right? You got to kind of get it done no matter what that takes. And that became very evident very quickly.
I want to talk more about that too. That's one of my favorite perspectives is, I've said this to my kids, you can't let fear paralyze you, but fear is the greatest motivator, right? I mean, the fear of failure. And so there, and also there's no replacement for hard work, period, end of story, full stop. There's no like quick rich, you might win the lottery, but that's not a business plan.
Right.
So putting that together, so you made this decision, partly you were able to create a bit of optionality in your back pocket, partly because you believed in it, presumably.
Yeah,
I think that too.
I think I believed in it. I also, believed in the success of what we had so far. And I think it was also an opportunity for me. That's how I really viewed it. And as an entrepreneur, as a leader, you kind of have to continually bet down and double down on yourself.
Right.
And I think that it made sense to me to say, if I'm going to bet on somebody, I'd rather have my destiny in my own control, right, wrong, or indifferent. If I fail, I know it's my fault.
Right.
If I succeed, I know that it was due to my effort, right? As opposed to in a more corporate environment where you're relying on other people to make those decisions.
Right.
And that just didn't track right for me.
So that sense of accountability was critical to you, having that pure accountability, no hiding behind anything. Yeah. Well, let's go back for a sec. One thing I want to ask you about is, during this time, so it's you and your mom getting this thing moving, how many other folks are working for the company at that very moment? Is it literally you two, or there a few at this
we founded the company, and then we hired about 3 reps.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, out of the gates.
So what are, during this window of getting started, I mean, for people who start things, anything you can reflect on that, any big or small failing that really you took something away from during that window?
Yeah, I mean, one was a pretty good one. We had about 5 or 6 people at the time, I think, and we were trying to open the showroom at the time as well. And it was incredibly chaotic. And we really didn't know what we were doing, right? I mean, we knew the product that we wanted. We knew the aesthetic. We knew what we were going to do. And we were confident in that. But the process to get there just wasn't baked at the time. And so we had 3 reps quit on the same day.
Wow. Out of
And
how many?
out of 5.
Oh, geez.
And
60%.
yeah. And so it was a pretty big shock. And I was kind of, crestfallen. I was like, oh my God, what do we do? And I was talking to one of my mentors at the time. And I said, God, we just had 3 people quit. What do I do? And he said, well, it's all about the people. And it's all about how you work with your people, how you treat them, what you're doing with them. And it was a big light bulb moment for me to realize, look, this isn't about product as much as it is about the people that you have, how you interact with them, the relationships that you have, not only with your employees, your team members, but your customers, your retailers, your partners, your great partners, from leasing and everything else. And I think that was a big eye opener for me to recognize that if we're really going to build a great business here, we need to focus on how we're treating our people, what we're doing there as the first point.
What's so interesting about that is and I encourage folks to get on Harper Group website. What you just said is pretty much the essence of your guys' sort of almost like mission or deep corporate philosophy about treating people. And I just heard you talk about it from a mentor from 20 some odd years ago.
Yep.
You don't have to name the person, but can you describe who was that mentor? Who were they to you? What part of your life were they? How did they come in your life, or who are they? You don't need to name them.
He was the owner of the company that I worked at in the oil business, and he was just a great guy.
Right.
I've become very close with his son over the years, and we're great friends now. And he was a very hard-charging entrepreneur, but understood the kind of secrets of what it really takes to build a business. And, he imparted a lot of knowledge on me. He was very patient with me as I was younger and trying to figure out my way. And I'm still trying to figure it out today, right?
Well, I think we all are. Life's a journey, right?
But he had a really big impact on my life. Yeah.
That's amazing. And is he still around? Is he still alive? Or
no, he passed away.
That's great. You have the continuity with his son. That's pretty cool. So, again, big takeaway there, mentorship. Find people who've been there, done that, who are good people. You trust them. They have integrity, and look to them for help. And they're always out there. It's amazing. People are always out there willing to help.
And I think you and I have talked about this in the past too, John. I think, being a CEO or being a leader or an entrepreneur, it can be a lonely position, right?
Right.
And I think you're looked at to make these decisions and really always have an answer. And I think, the other thing that I've learned over the years is you need to surround yourself with people that you can rely on, right?
Amen.
And you need to find people that are smarter than you, that have the right skill sets that you don't, and supplement that, but also build out a great team of advisors and people that you can trust and really be open and raw with.
It's so we have had those conversations, and it's a corny and I think weird thing for a lot of people who haven't been a CEO or an entrepreneur standing on their own feet alone to hear that you're CEO, everybody wants to talk to you. You think and it really is a lonely place. And at the end of the day, it's you and your conscience trying to make choices. And the more you have an infrastructure network of people you trust, the easier that becomes. And you can mitigate risk by bouncing things off of, but those people aren't just automatically there. It's really an interesting, point.
Yeah, and you have to build those relationships, right? And it's not a one-way street. It's a 2-lane highway, and you have to kind of give and take with it all and really be there for them when they need it. And the return is tenfold,
Right. Well, let's shift again. Going back, one more thing from early on was one of the things, again, I respect you so much for is in this industry, you do have a unique, I want to say mindset. And I think a lot of it is like how your mind works. You are an engineer, and it's obvious anyone who gets to know you, the way you approach things is a little different than people who aren't engineers. So maybe first, when you went to Villanova, what caused you to say, I want to be an engineer of some kind at that point? Was there experiences you had as a young, because your parents were in the airline business. They then have this marine supply business. Your mom starts to expand that into gift. And then you're sort of like going into engineering. Just speak to that. What sort of caused that choice at that time?
I think I was always kind of trying to figure out how things worked. And I was always kind of building and tinkering with things as I was growing up.
Like what kind of things? Cars, bicycles? What did you like to mess with?
Yeah, anything mechanical, right? And then also computers. I was big into computers growing up, and technology is really a passion for me as well. And we've talked about that.
But it even goes back to then.
Yeah, really? Sure. Yeah, we had the old 8088 IBM PCs, right, with the floppy disks. And so
people have no idea what you're talking about.
That's exactly right.
Audience, right.
But that's where we started. And so all of that kind of led to me going down the engineering path. And I think, as I got into engineering, I recognized that, that path would go only so far. And I think there's a component of me that enjoys the creative aspect of it, not necessarily from what you're seeing in product, but really how to build a business, right? How to solve problems. And I think that's why it always tied nicely with engineering.
So let's jump ahead a little bit. So you're in Greenwich,
Yep.
that area. You got some little ones.
Yep.
What's life like now? So we've gone from the extension out of the marine supply store, tagging along with your mom. Side hustle goes from helping mom to being an engineer consultant. Fast forward now, through growth and all kinds of blood, sweat, and tears to get here, M&A, a lot of cool things to get here. Talk about the business now and what are some of the bigger challenges you face? I don't mean now meaning this moment or even this year, but more generally running a big company. And other than the sort of being alone at the top, what are some of the other things that come to mind that people might hear that are interesting? What are some of the harder things about running a big company?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of studies about this. And, I've read a lot of books about it. And I think we've had these conversations. In each stage of a growth company, the leadership, and I'm not saying just the CEO, I'm saying the entire team, has to go through these kind of metamorphoses on how they're leading and what they're doing and where their skill sets are. And I think that can be on the revenue targets you're hitting or the revenue kind of components, or it can be on the headcount. Right. And I think I've noticed that over the years, when we hit 10 people, right. And it was, oh my gosh, we had double-digit employees, and how do you deal with that? And what do you do? And then we hit 50. And then it was like, okay, now that's a different component and it's a different skill set that we're all trying to use and manage to. I think at the place we're at now, we're a little over 200 people today. And I think, my role is moving more towards not as much operationally as more strategic and process-driven activities and things like that. And I think for entrepreneurs that are trying to make that leap or start that business, there is a process that you go through. And I think you have to be malleable enough to recognize you know what you know and you know what you don't. And if you don't know something, then find somebody that can help you or figure out a way to make it work so that you can kind of continue on.
I mean, this idea of malleable and implicit in that is also open to learning, right? Fundamentally, human beings are, what has made us successful on this planet is our ability to adapt.
Yep.
And I think that malleability is about that and learning. So maybe speak to that. Looking ahead, as an engineer with kind of a techie background orientation from early on, and, your role has become more strategic, as you said, less ops. Where are we today? With, there's so many fears out there and excitement too. It's kind of a mixed bag, but the two letters AI, the only word I heard more last year, the words I heard more last year were the T word tariffs. And thankfully that's fading into the sunset, hopefully a little bit. But just high level, I'm sure people would love to hear someone with your orientation in this business. What are your thoughts? How do you think about how rapidly technology is changing and what kind of opportunities does that create? How do you think about it related to your business?
Yeah, I think it's a very unique time in the industry in general, and I think just generally in the world, right? I think the pace at this innovation on AI overall and the impact that it's going to have on all of our lives, and it already is having, is unprecedented, right? And so when I look at it from our industry, I think, I say to my team all the time, I've never been more excited about where we are as a company and where we're going than I am today. And it's just, there's so much opportunity on that level with given these tools that are coming out on how you can transform your business and really stay relevant and, excel. And I think one of our big focuses and our big tenets is how do we create these extraordinary relationships while connecting these products and retailers together. And I think we're doing a lot of that with the tech stack. And I think we're doing a lot of that with, analytics and how we can apply a higher level of service, right, for our sales team and enable them to be more effective at their job. And most importantly, provide a better level of service for their retailers and brands.
And I'm not surprised to hear you say that at all. It's really like you say analytics, and I think sometimes that can mean a lot of things, but what you're describing, I think very specifically, is the word analytics to suggest you can understand your customer and other partner and relationships. You can understand what their wants and needs are and their behaviors are, and then tailor how your team engages with them to their specific and peculiar needs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're using our kind of data platform to understand where the retailer has been, how we can work to present product that's going to be relevant to the retailer, and then at the end of the day, help them have better sales and provide a better product to their consumers.
Right. And what I love about that, and I so deeply believe in this, again, implicit in what you just said, is this idea that so many people, the word AI, and you hear, large language models, it's these big things and some companies investing billions and billions. There's this bigness to AI.
Yep.
I mean, AI is going to change the world.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that it already has, right? I think, and to your point, it's a good one. It's not, when people hear the word AI, I think it has taken on such a broad connotation in lexicon that it's not, just start today and figure out a way to start using it today in an easy way that's going to help you do your job better, right? And provide a better quality of service and provide a greater relationship.
No, exactly. I mean, one of our teammates, our chief technology officer, started something called our AI Disruptor series.
Yep.
And it's intended to encourage people, our teammates, to change their habits in small ways, leveraging as simple as ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever.
Yep.
And then that's one, to encourage that. Two, by virtue of recognizing those people in this monthly forum, to encourage more of it so it becomes a cultural phenomenon. And I think that's the way forward, not to look for that external whiz-bang cool change the world thing. I think the number was $368 billion was invested last year by just 4 companies in AI. That's 1% of GDP.
Yeah.
1% of every dollar spent by all of us Americans was on one thing.
Yep.
So share with me then, maybe as we start to think about our time together, where are you guys heading? AI is starting to look forward-looking. Whether jump ahead, where do you see, if you have a vision, Harper Group in 25 years or in 5 years?
Yeah.
Where are you guys heading now, and maybe what are you aiming for long term?
Yeah, I think where we're heading now is our real focus is to really provide an exemplary level of service for our brands and our retailers, right? And I think, the way that we're able to do that is by using technology and using the locations and the platforms that we have to create a seamless experience, right? So you as a retailer, if you're working with one of our salespeople in your store, if you come to one of our showrooms, if you're ordering online, if somebody picks up the phone and calls us, it's the exact same experience, the exact same information, and it's one relationship, right? It's not I have an online relationship here, I have a showroom relationship there. We're moving past those silos, and we have to get to a point that we have this integrated, seamless experience because, to be honest, that's what our retailers demand.
And again, what I love, parroting back to you, what I love about that is it's truly, truly customer-centric.
Yep.
Like it's so, whatever the opposite of egocentric is, right? Egocentric is we have all these ways of delivering, so we deliver, meaning it's about us delivering outward. And you're turning that around to say it's the opposite.
Yeah.
How do we serve this customer, this client, this retailer here? And it doesn't matter what we have to figure out on our end, but we got to figure it out.
Right.
And if they want to engage with us this way or that way, digitally, real, whatever, it's our job to figure that out and make it just as easy and seamless as possible.
Yeah, and I think then on the brand side, really our customer base is our brands, right? The people that contract with us to represent them. I think we want to provide, again, just an incredible experience that is high quality, high touch, customized and bespoke for what they really need, right? If they're working with us.
That's got to be hard. Can I just
of course.
interrupt? Talk about the challenge of that representing so many brands.
Yeah, it's a real challenge.
How do you adapt to all of that?
It's a real challenge. And I think that our team, we spend a lot of time thinking about that. We spend a lot of time kind of whiteboarding it out because that's a real tenet of what we're trying to do.
Right.
Our belief as well is my belief is this industry has been built on large established brands and a lot of startup brands as well, right? And so, having a nice mix of both in our portfolio becomes that much more of a resource for our retailers to buy from us and experience that product discovery at shows, on the road for us, right? Because at the end of the day, if retailers don't have new, it's not going to work, right? And so we really spend a lot of time thinking about that and how we can balance the two. And as we continue to grow, improve the quality of our service. So that's kind of what we look at when we look at brand life cycles, when we look at retailer life cycles, how we're integrating the data to drive a lot of those decisions as well, and then presenting it in a way that doesn't geek everybody out.
Again, what's so interesting and a point, this potential conflict here is, and it's a question, you just answered it for your company, but this question of scale, I'll say it this way, scale versus quality. It doesn't have to be versus, but those two things are almost automatically in conflict.
Yeah.
The bigger you get, how do you maintain the high touch, high quality, boutique high quality feel to the relationship, but at the same time scale? And that's always a challenge, right? Because those two things, if you're not intentional and thoughtful about that, they definitely are in conflict.
Yep.
If you're intentional and thoughtful, they don't have to be, but they are otherwise. So I have to ask, since we're sitting, we're looking through this window at Winter Market in Atlanta. How's this market been so far? I'm hearing good things, but it doesn't matter what I'm hearing. What are you seeing? And whatever you can share, just since we're actually doing this at market, how's it been going so far?
It's been great. I mean, we were fortunate enough to expand again with Ann Moore for this show and the
our own little neighborhood now.
Yeah, we got our own little
it's the Harper Group neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. And the feedback from brands, retailers, and the team overall has been very positive. And again, creating that experience, that environment that is providing more than just product for the retailers. The feedback in general on the market has been really positive, I think. Retailers are buying. That's great. We're seeing large orders, which is really nice. Good. And we're just feeling a great sentiment, right? And that's nice.
Awesome. Well, Scott Harper, the CEO of the Harper Group, a buddy, a pal, someone I look to, who I respect for guidance. Really appreciate our relationship and your perspective. And I really appreciate during market taking time with me today. So thanks so much, Scott.
Yeah, of course, John. I can't thank you enough. It's really
appreciate it. Thanks. Scott will tell you the decision came down to one simple belief. If you're going to bet on somebody, bet on yourself. Own the outcome, right, wrong, or indifferent. But here's the thing about that kind of conviction. It only pays off if you back it up. He didn't leap blindly. He hedged his bets and put in the work. Because as Scott sees it, when you bet on yourself, you own every outcome. The wins and the losses are all yours. That's a harder thing to choose than most people realize. What Scott built isn't just a bigger company, it's a more intentional one. Every chapter traces back to the same thing, treating people right and showing up ready. Thanks for listening to this episode of Scale Up Stories, part of the Market Makers podcast. I've been your host, John Perchik. That wraps up season 1 of the Market Makers. 26 episodes, 26 conversations with some of the most fascinating people working in this industry today. And honestly, it's been the most fascinating journey, really getting to explore the psyche of these incredibly creative, wildly intelligent business leaders who've all achieved success in many, many different ways. And again, it's amazing to me, the ingredients of authenticity, hard work, no shortcuts are all the same, despite we're talking to people who are super creative, super logical and rational, and yet all of them more or less have followed a similar path, and yet the journeys couldn't have been more different. From synesthesia to M&A, we've covered some wild ground with some amazingly different people, and yet it comes back to some simple truths, and the ingredients are really, in the end, very simple. Thanks for listening, and I've really enjoyed season 1.